Okay guys, there's something that I really need to make clear. This is the worst baseball video game of all time. I know that that's an extreme statement, and I already know that a lot of you disagree with me. However, I stand by my opinion. There is no baseball game on any platform worse than LJN's Major League Baseball on the NES. And today we're going to look into the reasons why. I know that there's a lot of subjectivity that goes into video game rankings, so the stuff that one person thinks is bad might be good to another person. However, in the case of this game, I am confident that I can objectively demonstrate that there is no baseball game worse than this one. So let's take a look at its many sins. As you might already know, Major League Baseball was the first NES game to have the official Major League Baseball license. That allowed this game to have teams named after the real-life Major League teams. However, it was not the first video game to have that license. That honor goes to Major League Baseball on the Intellivision. Of course, the Intellivision game didn't actually have Major League teams or players or anything. The license was literally there just to get the Major League Baseball logo on the box. And that's precisely what LJN's Major League Baseball license was designed to do as well. The company didn't care about how the game actually played. It needed a gimmick to get people to buy the game, and that gimmick was the logo. In fact, you can see this in the original advertising for this game. This is from an issue of Newsday in mid-May 1988. This is the first advertisement for this game that I could find. Even without the logo, you can see that the name stands out in this ad from late May the same year. In fact, in the baseball section of the very first issue of Nintendo Power, Major League Baseball isn't even given a name. The logo is the official Major League Baseball symbol, something that must have been really attractive to kids at the time. But the thing that really gets to me about this game is that it simply doesn't matter which teams are included. All of the teams play the same way. In fact, I honestly haven't been able to tell the difference between any of the teams at all. Anyway, I decided to put it to the test. I chose the Seattle Mariners. Now, the 1987 Seattle Mariners were a pretty bad team. While they did manage to finish 4th, they had a losing record for their 11th straight season. I decided to play against the Boston Red Sox. Now, the Red Sox also didn't have a great year in 1987, but they still had this man, Roger Clemens. And Roger Clemens still had it in 1987.
He does have a very impressive ERA of 3.1.
Now, I know that I can't expect these NES games to be realistic, but I figured that Clemens would pitch faster than everybody else, right? I mean, that's the most basic thing that you would expect from a game like this, right? Well, your first problem is that the player names aren't here at all. All you get are these numbers. If you happen to know the uniform numbers, you can figure out who's who. If you don't, you're in trouble. Actually, this was a really big deal, as strange as it sounds. There was a lawsuit filed over the fact that this game didn't include player names, and no, I'm not making this up. This January 1990 UPI article has the details. The plaintiff was a 9-year-old boy. The boy claimed that the game's advertising was misleading. The advertising promised to give a managerial experience, but of course a manager would know the players by their names, not their uniform numbers. And so the boy did what any reasonable American would do in such a situation. He sued. Now, of course, when you think about it, it's totally ridiculous. I mean, imagine suing a company because it didn't get the Players Association license. But seriously, couldn't LJN have come up with like fake names or something like that? Seems to me like this problem would have been easy to solve. Actually, LJN did just that with Roger Clemens' MVP Baseball on the NES a few years later. This game didn't have either license, but at least it had some creative player names. You can usually figure out the real player from the coded name. Ken Griffey Jr. Presents Major League Baseball also used some interesting names. In fact, the former singers of Black Flag make up the Los Angeles Dodgers bullpen in that game. And they were kind enough to give us the ability to fix the names. But the thing is that the lack of real names isn't even close to the biggest problem with LJN's old NES baseball game. I'm actually really indifferent on that issue. It's everything else that drives me nuts. For instance, why do I have to make my own lineup for every game? It's a pain, especially since I can't see all the players at once. The way this works is you can only choose 4 infielders, 3 outfielders, and 1 catcher. If you have the designated hitter rule on, he has to bat 9th, no exceptions. Meanwhile, the computer manager has preset lineups that it uses automatically. So why couldn't we get the lineup that the computer uses? Why can't we just get to the action, like in every other baseball game? I mean, RBI Baseball gets you straight to the action. You can only choose your pitcher. Bases Loaded is the same way. There are some games that let you make changes if you want, but most of us don't even bother to look at those screens. So the thing is that the people who play baseball video games just want to, play the game. They don't want to scroll through a list of stats and put the stats in order first. The other problem here is that you cannot set individual player positions. It's just 4 infielders, 3 outfielders, a catcher, and maybe a DH. That tells me that there are no fielding ratings for any of these players. The more I play this game, the more obvious this is. Your players on defense are slow and helpless no matter who you stick out there. No matter who's out there, the outfielders always have super arms. And the infielders are always hopeless at getting the ball to first base. And then you've got pitching. Oh man, the pitching in this game is crazy. The computer only throws the ball down the heart of the plate. It doesn't matter who is pitching, it's always the same. The computer will occasionally throw 100-mile-per-hour fastballs. It will then throw pitches so slow that you can swing twice before the ball crosses the plate. And sometimes it throws pitches in between both extremes. No matter what, though, the computer will never throw a curveball. And that means that it never throws a ball. In other words, if you're playing against a computer, it's easier to hit in this game than in any other game. I mean, imagine what RBI Baseball would be like if the computer just threw the ball down the middle every pitch. Now, I hate those sinker balls, but at least they make the game fun. Every good NES baseball game has at least some pitching variety. Major League Baseball is the only game that has an AI that simply doesn't know how to pitch. And so, once you get the timing down, you can absolutely crush the computer. And getting the timing down takes a while. I mean, this game really was not well designed. I'll show you why. If you watch carefully, you'll notice that the bat never actually hits the ball in this game. Instead, the screen suddenly turns green and you change to outfield mode. Compare that to RBI Baseball, where you can clearly see the batter make contact with the ball. The same is true in Bases Loaded. And it's true in Bad News Baseball. In fact, every NES game shows the batter hitting the ball. Every game except Major League Baseball, that is. Now, if you read the manual, you'll see stuff mentioned that never actually turns up in the game. Let me show you. In keeping with the theme, the instruction booklet only has the Major League Baseball logo plastered on top, no game name. Anyway, you're supposed to be able to push left or right to move left or right in the batter's box. In reality, you can only move up or down. You're also supposed to be able to swing to the left or to the right. In reality, you just swing and hope you make contact. But it's not hard, of course, since the computer just throws the ball down the middle anyway. Also, how you hit the ball doesn't seem to have anything to do with where you hit the ball. It all seems to be completely random. So in the end, hitting in this game is actually pretty easy, but that's because the computer manager is incompetent. Base running, however, is a different story. In general, you want to play station-to-station baseball. However, you can take some risks when you run. This is because the computer will not throw to the base that you're returning to. You can also use the normal NES baseball tricks to take extra bases pretty much any time you want. Pitching in this game is also not great. In fact, it's worse than in any other NES baseball game. You can throw curveballs, but only if you pitch slowly. If you throw a fastball, you can only curve the pitch at the very end. My advice is to always curve the ball towards the hitter, not away from him. You'll get a lot of ground balls and pop-ups that way. If the ball hits the sweet spot of the bat, you're going to give up base hits and home runs. Also, there's a fun trick you can pull to curve the ball around the hitter's bat. It's risky since you might give up an extra base hit if he connects, but it looks really cool. Now, you can go to the bullpen if you want, though I don't see why you would even bother. The instruction manual has this really generic reference to staying power, which I guess is the fatigue system. When the pitcher is tired, he won't throw faster than 70 miles an hour or so. However, the computer is so incompetent at hitting that you might as well leave him in there. The teams do have full rosters if you need to use them, though you probably won't. And most pitchers tend to tire after only one inning of work. Fielding is a different story. The fielding in this game is simply horrid. You can never tell where the ball is going to come down. And even if you could, it's impossible to get your fielder over there in time anyway. If you do give up a base hit, the best idea is to wait to field it until the runner is halfway to the next base and then throw him out. However, it can be really hard to time this right. Actually, the best idea on defense is to simply throw pitches that the computer can't hit. Pitchers are differentiated by won-loss records, ERAs, and strikeouts. In reality, though, each of them pitches basically the same way. This game does not keep strikeout stats. If it did, my pitchers would always lead the league. So by now you might start to understand why I consider this game to be the worst baseball video game of all time. I mean, the components are lousy, but the worst part of all is that this game is just a chore to play. Even though it's really easy to crush the computer, doing so just is not any fun. Watching the ball die on the artificial turf is really frustrating. If you hit a home run, it takes forever to round the bases. And the offense in this game is off the charts. I stopped that Mariners-Red Sox game after 2 innings. We were winning 21-3. That's right, we had 24 hits in only 2 innings. That's the sort of game this is. My average game of RBI Baseball takes maybe 15 minutes at most. Bases loaded takes me maybe a half hour or so. Major League Baseball, on the other hand, always takes me at least 40 minutes to play. Why? Simple, because there's no 10-run mercy rule. If ever a game needed the 10-run mercy rule, this would be it. I played another game just for fun, a World Series game between the St. Louis Cardinals and the Cleveland Indians. The Cardinals, of course, were awesome in 1987 and came within a game of winning the World Series.
And he can't get it. It bounces up against the fence, which is a break for the Cardinals because it almost bounced over. In which case,
The Indians, on the other hand, were the worst team in baseball that year. So I figured that I would give myself a disadvantage, and it was a disadvantage for a little while at least. This home run by number 33 for the Cardinals made it 7-1 in the bottom of the second, and I thought we were in trouble. Number 33, by the way, was technically John Morris, but the stats don't line up. In fact, as you can see here, none of the Cardinals players in 1987 hit .314. That means that the stats in the game are just flat out wrong. So keep that one in mind as well. Not only are there no player names in this game, but the players in this game have nothing to do with the real life players on any of the teams. I'm telling you, this really is the worst baseball video game ever. Anyway, we started teeing off on Cardinals pitching bit by bit. We had to score 8-7 in our favor before the top of the third was over. And the hits just kept on coming. By the end, we wound up winning by an incredible 27-10 score. 37 runs combined by two teams breaks the 29 runs scored in Game 4 of the 1993 World Series, which is the all-time record. Additionally, we combined for 69 hits, and no, I didn't plan that out on purpose, giggity. That crushes the record of 51 hits by both teams combined from 1922. Now that record was set in the famous August 25th, 1922 Cubs-Phillies game, and it's not every day that you see a batter hit 3 times in the same inning. Our NES game also broke the record for most hits by a single team in a single game, which is 33 in real life. We had 46, which means that we totally crushed the record. The reason why you see so many hits in this game is because the fielding is so ridiculous. It's almost impossible to catch the ball when it's hit to the outfield, and yet run scoring is relatively low because you can't advance extra bases. That's because the outfield throws are way too fast. It's just broken. I also tried the All-Star Game mode just to see what it was like. I chose the American League but decided to pitch a bunch of random players with bad stats. We've already seen that the stats don't actually correspond to real players, so it doesn't really matter anyway. With bad hitting, we had a hard time collecting base hits at first. But they started to come eventually. Now, we didn't hit any home runs, not that it mattered anyway. In the end, we won 28-4. The two teams combined for 56 hits, an obvious record. Our 41 hits also shows that there is a pattern here. Every single game of LJN's Major League Baseball against the computer is like this. I mean, seriously, go do a search on YouTube and you'll see. I watched a video on this platform the other day where a guy scored over 54 runs. It's ridiculous, and it is strong evidence that this really is the worst baseball video game of all time. But of course, there are some people who disagree. I'm going to pick on posts from this blog, Thunder Matt's Saloon. The author created a series of posts ranking the NES baseball games. And yeah, I know that this is from 2016. Apologies to Thunder Matt for picking on you, but honestly, man, I think you're completely wrong. Thunder Matt ranked Major League Baseball 16th of 20 games, which is ridiculous. He says that this game could have ranked higher with a few minor tweaks. I suppose minor tweaks means completely rewriting the game from scratch, right? Anyway, let's see which games he thought were worse. Bases Loaded 2 is 17th. Now, Thunder Matt's reasoning is that the fielding perspective is bad. That's true, actually. Bases Loaded 2 has one of the worst fielding perspectives I've ever seen. The rest of Thunder Matt's argument is some really strange rant about not being able to throw out a base stealer with runners on first and third. Anyway, if you actually play Bases Loaded 2, you'll find out that it really is a good game. It's similar to the original, but it moves quite faster and has a lot more animation. It takes a while to figure out the timing for hitting. Once you've got that down though, the game really is enjoyable. The fielding isn't great, but it's still better than Major League Baseball. There is no way you can tell me with a straight face that Major League Baseball was better than Bases Loaded 2. Now, this particular blogger has a vendetta against the Bases Loaded franchise, and his reasoning here is ridiculous. Anyway, let's see what comes next. And coming in at number 18 is RBI Baseball. Seriously, this RBI Baseball? Sure, the fielding isn't great, but the hitting is awesome, and the pitching feels natural. There's a reason why people play this game to this day. Yeah, the sound that you just heard was the moans and the groans of a generation of Nintendo gamers. It's hard to take someone seriously who honestly thinks that RBI Baseball was worse than Major League Baseball on the NES. I mean, it's just objectively wrong. For one thing, the computer can actually pitch the ball in RBI Baseball. The computer can also field, though it's not great. In Major League Baseball, every pitch is straight down the middle. And don't get me started on the horrendous fielding AI. The funny thing is that there's actually pretty good evidence that Major League Baseball was a ripoff of Famistol, which is the game that became RBI Baseball. In other words, this blogger has everything exactly backwards. Number 19 on the list is the original Blackbox baseball game. Now, I can kind of see considering this game bad unless you've actually played it, that is. This was originally known as Versus Baseball in the arcades, and it was quite popular when it first came out. The NES version is actually a really good reproduction of the arcade game, and it has good controls and gameplay. It's not perfect, sure, but it's a lot better than Major League Baseball. Okay, I've run into a lot of people online who consider the Blackbox baseball game to be the worst baseball game on the NES. Honestly, I do not see how you can come to that conclusion if you have actually played the game. It's a better game than you think, and it's also a fun two-player game. Anyway, coming in dead last on Thunder Matt's list is Roger Clemens' MVP Baseball, another LJN game. This is a bad game, sure, but it's not as bad as he makes it sound. Batting is easier than he claims. Pitching is also pretty easy, and you've got a variety of pitches. The big problem with this game is fielding, since all of the controls are backwards. Honestly, this game really was never finished, and I don't know why they decided to release it. The best part of this game is the player names, though. It's really fun trying to figure those out. That's a lot more interesting than the random numbers on Major League Baseball. There's one more awful game that we need to compare Major League Baseball to. This one only came out in Japan, thankfully. Ah yes, that would be this game, Exciting Baseball, a 1987 game by Konami. This is by far the worst Konami baseball game ever. Exciting Baseball is a game made for the Famicom disk system only. Now the cool thing is that you can save and edit your progress on the disk. The bad thing is everything else. The fielding screen in this game is a lot choppier than Major League Baseball. Base running is almost impossible, the controls are so delayed that it's not even funny, and the computer doesn't know how to field. But there's a lot more pitching variety in this game than in Major League Baseball. And there's at least some kind of music, which is a lot better than Major League Baseball's static. Honestly, the biggest problem with Exciting Baseball is the ridiculous loading times on the Famicom disk system. It's choppy, but you get used to that after a few minutes. And you can throw these really cool sidewinder pitches that the computer really struggles to hit. Anyway, there you go. Like I said, Major League Baseball comes in dead last and is even worse than the notorious Exciting Baseball. And I honestly think it's ridiculous to even suggest otherwise. I mean, this game just isn't fun. Playing it is a chore, even if you are winning by 20 runs. Maybe it's fun if you play two-player. But why not play something good instead, like Bad News Baseball? I can't think of a single redeeming quality. The rosters are nothing but numbers. The MLB license means absolutely nothing. The fielding is atrocious. The computer manager is completely incompetent. And, well, it's just not a fun game to play. So there you have it. Major League Baseball by LJN is simply the worst baseball video game of all time. And I really hope that I never have to play this game again.